Today in the battle arena, the Battle of the Titans. The Monsterverse is dominated by the likes of Godzilla, Kong, King Ghidorah, but let's take a look at some of the smaller, more unsung Titans. We've got the Ion Dragon, the Alpha Skullcrawler, the Warbat, and the male MUTO going at it. But who's ultimately coming out on top? Well, that's what we're going to find out. What's up, guys? I'm Daniel and this is DanCo. We do fight breakdowns every week, plus the occasional power ranking video like this one or things like that. So if that seems interesting to you, we'll sit back and enjoy the video. Hit that like button. If you want to, well, hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Now let's get to it. So the male MUTO kinda gets overlooked in the Monsterverse. Partly because the MUTOs just get overlooked simply because they were in the first movie and fought the weakest version of Godzilla. But the male MUTO gets even more overlooked on top of that, just because it's smaller and not as cool or intimidating as its partner. But it's still definitely a threat. I mean, the MUTO was able to dig out a huge hole literally right after birth, then destroy a nuclear facility an hour later. It picked up a nuclear sub and carried it off to Hawaii, so like 50 miles away. Then on top of that, carried it up into the jungle. It ate like half a monorail, just gobbled it up. It was a lot. And then it was able to fight against Godzilla. Yeah, this big guy. And he did surprisingly well. Like, surprisingly well. Of course, it does help that the MUTOs have been perfectly adapted and evolved to fight against Godzilla's. They're basically the paper to his rock. But that definitely showed here. The MUTO was able to drag Godzilla around, stab and pierce him with his claws, do his best WWE impression and do a nice body slam. The MUTO got some good hits in. It was also able to dodge some attacks, actually do this repeatedly, and even took some big attacks as well. Of course, all that ended up not being enough, because in the end, Godzilla got his, but the MUTO put up a nice fight on his way out. The Ion Dragon is a massive titan living in the Philippines, where it's the stuff of legends, as its ability to discharge radioactive ions has given rise to the story of a dragon that carves a path of fire across the sky. The Ion Dragon is also extremely territorial and aggressive, so much so that it quickly sunk a US warship and killed all the crew for just entering into its territory. It then took that warship and carried it all the way from Hawaii to the Philippines, showing off some extremely impressive physical strength. The Ion Dragon was so strong that it was even able to fight against Godzilla for a little bit, although it was quickly overwhelmed by the Alpha Titan. The Ion Dragon is also pretty tough. It was able to withstand Godzilla's atomic breath for a little bit, take a whole bunch of attacks from the Titan before going down. On top of that, being a dragon, the Ion Dragon is obviously able to fly, and can use that to its advantage during a fight. Finally, the Ion Dragon is able to launch out some serious mucus from its mouth, encasing its prey and preserving that prey for years on end. It can also be used to disorient other titans like Godzilla during a fight. Skullcrawlers are giant kaiju that live on Skull Island, with the Skull Devil, or the Alpha Skullcrawler, being an apex predator on the island, the largest and most dangerous of its race. Skullcrawlers have two massive arms, a long, snake-like tail, and the Skull Devil itself is absolutely massive. It's actually almost as big as King Kong himself. Granted, it was baby Kong, but still, this thing is really, really big. The Skull Devil is strong enough to overpower and knock out an injured Kong, send him in flying away with just a little flick of its tail. It's actually able to shake the ground and knock down trees just by walking. The Alpha Skullcrawler was also able to really hurt Kong with its bites. It was able to throw Kong around with its tail, and even its tongue is surprisingly powerful, as the Skull Devil was able to pull Kong's hand into its mouth with its tongue. The Skull Devil is also incredibly durable, as it really wasn't hurt by Kong smashing its head into a cliff, being hit with a massive tree in the face, and quickly recovered from Kong slamming a massive rock on its head. Gunfire from a World War II fighter jet merely annoyed it. It was able to walk off a flare directly in the eye, and even survived having its neck sliced clean open and kept on fighting. The Skull Devil is also incredibly fast and agile, being able to maneuver all around Kong during their fight. And Kong is incredibly fast and agile in his own right. It's also surprisingly intelligent, so when a soldier approached it on a suicide mission with grenades, the Skull Devil managed to pick up on this and notice that it was odd, flicking its tail, sending that man flying into the side of a cliff. But then we also definitely can't be overlooking the Warbat. I mean, yeah, should probably talk about it. They live down in the subterranean rainforest down in the Hollow Earth. And dude, they are super aggressive. I mean, that's kind of how they got their name, because they try and fight and kill anything that they see. Any little thing flying around, they're gonna try and bring it down out of the air. And I mean, yeah, we actually saw this play out in action. They destroyed one of those little flying machines that the Monarch crew was flying around in. Then they set their sights on Kong. And even though Kong, instantly killed one of them, turns out that bashing them on the head with a giant rock will do that, the other one put up a real good fight. Very nearly killed Kong. It got up in there with its giant bat wings and just smothered the big guy. And for as strong as King Kong is, trust me, the big guy is real strong, he couldn't break out. He couldn't break through the Warbat's wings. Couldn't get out. It took a whole barrage of missiles to break its hold. Then Kong did, well, what Kong does best. So, who wins? Well, right off the bat here, I think the Skull Devil is at a little bit of a disadvantage. For starters, it can't fly. All the other three can. Sure, it's still incredibly fast and agile in its own right, but doesn't quite have the speed and mobility that comes with flight. Secondly, the other three kaiju fought against a true alpha titan, either a Godzilla or an adult Kong. The Skull Devil only ever fought a teenage Kong. Ever since then, King Kong grew hundreds of feet and became way more powerful. We know this because a different Skull Devil tried to fight against Mecha Godzilla, was instantly torn apart. So yeah, I think Skull Devil is at a pretty significant disadvantage here. I also think the Ion Dragon is a little bit out of its depth as well. Sure, it was able to attack Godzilla and even made Godzilla bleed, but then it was quickly put down by Godzilla too. The male MUTO lasted a whole lot longer in its fight against Godzilla, even had multiple fights against Big G. And sure, one Warbat was one-shotted by Kong, but another Warbat very nearly killed Kong and would have won if it wasn't for humans getting in the way. So really, this is going to come down to the Warbat and the male MUTO. And between the two titans, well, both these monsters are really similar. Both flying around, both able to land some great hits, but I think the difference between the two is, again, just who they were going up against. The MUTO was fighting against a weaker version of Godzilla, and even then, was never really able to gain the upper hand by itself. it had to become a 2-on-1 fight for the MUTOs to ever get the leg up. But with the Warbat, was able to overpower Kong all by itself. The same Kong that was able to square up and fight on par with an even more powerful version of Godzilla. A Godzilla who had gained more power and had already been all nuked up. So yeah, I think this would be a crazy close one. The MUTO could get his, but the Warbat just managed to impress me the most, even in its super short time on the screen. The Warbat wins. But what do y'all think? Sound off in the comments down below. I know you're gonna have thoughts and feelings on this one for sure. If you stuck around this long and made it to the end of the video, that's amazing. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us. And if you want to go subscribe, well, go subscribe. You're gonna see more videos like this one every single week. I'll see y'all then. I'll see y'all next time.